Salmon farming, what did I say?
It's farming.
Oh, salmon farming.
It's all
Come on up.
farming.
It's all farming? But,
Yes, come on up, Jerry. If
fish?
you'd like to take the podium. we can give you a little
Okay.
show.
Okay.
It's
Feel
kind of
it through the phone.
And if you could just
Let's
step
do it.
behind it there.
How would you like me to do this, sir?
We got a microphone in the studio, so we'll try and get you.
Is that good? I see. Yeah, is this great? Yeah, I can see that. I can see you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and Jerry, you have, we allow delegations 10 minutes, so.
And you don't have the intimidating countdown clock like they do in Campbell River, so I'm pretty happy. They do. It's quite challenging to just watch this thing count down. So, thank you all for having me here. I think I visited you last year, and of course, our association and our members are very familiar with the Comox Valley, and in Comox in particular. Agri-Marine's one of our members, and just down the road, many of the employees in our industry live in the Comox Valley because of the lifestyle it affords them, and obviously the BC Seafood and Shellfish Festival is a big part of our year, and we're very happy to partner with our friends in the shellfish business and all the seafood community to try and bring as many people to the valley here in Comox as we can to see what you all have and engage with your great chefs and restaurants and lifestyle here. So I just wanted to share a few updates with you on our sector. We've just published our third annual Sustainability Progress Report, which we've left some copies, and I think you were all mailed some. And we just updated some of our economic impact numbers as well to give a sense of the value of salmon aquaculture here in BC. So the base numbers, we've got 52 organizations. Only 7 members that we have actually grow fish. Everybody else is involved somehow in the value chain, whether they're truckers or baking feed or what have you. From a farming perspective, our members have 112 sites. Most of those grow salmon, but some do grow sable fish in net pens in the ocean. Our members have 20 land-based farms as well. Some of the most sophisticated farms that you find in North America. Primarily, those farms are used for growing fish for the first half of their life until they're entered into the sea site. And there are 2 lake-based farms in Lois Lake, just near Powell River, that grow steelhead. Farm-raised salmon is BC's #1 agricultural export. It's BC's highest valued seafood product, and it's #2 valued agricultural product just behind dairy. Our harvest last year was just under 80,000 metric tons of gutted weight. So that's gone through the primary processing. The value of that product is over $745 million for the base value. 30% of that sold domestically here, 70% exported. Most of that is exported in the United States, about 80%. The key number that I like is that we talk about economics and we talk about growing fish and raising fish, but it's 360 million meal portions that we raised here in the waters of British Columbia that are helping to feed people in BC, Canada, and around the world. And I think that's actually a pretty noble profession to be in the business of creating healthy food for people. From an economic perspective, the impact to BC's economy is $1.5 billion. 70% of that is felt in the North Island, Comox Valley, and up to Port Hardy and on the West Coast. That's an increase in value of 37% in just the last 3 years alone, primarily based on the value of the product that's being sold into the marketplace. And that value, when MNP did an independent assessment of this, they see that as creating 1,600 jobs over the last 3 years alone in the sector, where we now have 6,600 jobs, 20 economic and social partnerships with First Nations, many of which go back more than 20 years. The salmon farmers were amongst the first in BC to establish equitable partnerships with First Nations. We don't have partnerships everywhere, and that makes the news often, but most of the areas that salmon farmers operate, they have partnerships with First Nations. In the Sustainability Progress Report, which you'll see there, some key pieces on how the industry is progressing. Most of the farms have upgraded their nets to no longer use copper-based antifoulants. Copper-based paints are common in the marine industry, and salmon farmers are working to remove those. This is also helping with reducing negative interactions with marine mammals and having fewer drownings and fewer accidental issues with those animals. And it also really helps with escapes. Obviously, we all saw the escape in Washington State I get asked about that all the time. I can say that's not an example of salmon farming, it's an example of bad salmon farming. And that's not the salmon farming that we want here in BC. Last year there were 4 events, so 4 escape events that happened in BC for a total of 23 fish that were reported escaped into the waters from our farms. And we have incredible innovations in fish health, which continues to reduce the use of antibiotics in farming, and the feed conversion of the animals, the science that's going into the feed, and the husbandry practices and the way they're raising the animals on the farm, we're pretty close to 1-to-1. So if you put in a pound of feed, you get a pound of salmon out. 10 years ago, that would have been closer to 4-to-1, 4 pounds of feed for 1 pound of fish. So that's pretty important from a sustainability perspective. Every farm in BC has received at least 1 third-party certification. Most of them are based on the environment. We have obviously a Chinook farmer that is organic certified. All the Atlantic farmers are BAP, Best Aquaculture Practices certified. When I was here last year, I told you our members have committed to be 100% certified to the Aquaculture Stewardship Council certification by 2020. Well, today 40% of our active production is certified to that production, and that is significantly higher than countries like Norway and Scotland and the east coast of Canada, where there's 0 farms certified. We have the only ASC certified farms in North America. And in about 8 weeks ago, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which runs the Seafood Watch program, which the Ocean Wise program that many people in BC are familiar with bases its rankings off of, declared that Atlantic salmon raised in BC was a good alternative. So it's a yellow rating, where previously they had called it a void. This is after a significant independent research into our practices. We're the only region in the world where all of the Atlantic salmon are called a good alternative. This is really showing that our members are on the right path in terms of their improving their environmental performance and their stage in the world. Over $200 million has been invested over the last 3 years alone into new land-based recirculated aquaculture systems. These are very expensive. There were 2 new farms built by Marine Harvest near Sayward. They are $20 million investments each. You're seeing net washing boats like this and the new stronger net material that's made out of more of a polyethylene rather than nylon, very strong, and now they're washed to keep the phthalates, barnacles, mussels, and things off rather than using a paint to do that. And now our members are planning another $300 million over the next 4 years. And certainty in our business is certainly needed for that, and you'll see things like a well boat like this. This is a 75-meter long boat. You'll see a number of these here deployed that helps with safe smolt transport and again, continued environmental performance in terms of how the farmers are managing their animals. And they have announced a couple of years ago, and that program is still ongoing, funds that are going directly into researching wild salmon. So that picture there is a little smolt. That acoustic tag is put in there, and we're working with Pacific Salmon Foundation, UBC, and others to track the migration of sockeye and chinook through the Discovery Islands and see where they go and how fast they go and where they might not be going past that, to be able to aid in the management, potentially the siting of farms, but the management of fisheries as well. These are some important commitments that our members have made, and I think around First Nations, we're looking to expand their involvement in the industry. We're looking to be the most environmentally progressive farming region in the world. We're looking to have an even greater role in the stewardship of wild salmon, the enhancement of wild salmon. Our members currently work with a number of community organizations. We think we have a greater role to play in ensuring we have wild salmon for eagles and orcas and bears and fishers. We want to be driven by world-leading innovation and grounded in the economics of the marketplace. The last slide I'll show you is the community contributions of our members. Up and down the island, they're working with over 350 different community organizations, donating about 23,000 pounds of fresh fish annually and allowing community groups to go and raise funds on top of that, and donating over $600,000 into local organizations, whether they're soccer teams or Rotary clubs or what have you, and being as big a part of a community as they possibly can, and they're always open to ideas from any community that they're working in and around. So that's the end of this presentation. I have time for questions if you have any.
Okay, questions?
I have a quick one,
Yes.
if I may. First of all, I can't believe I was part of the fishing industry when fish farms were first introduced in British Columbia. I can't believe how far you've gone from that point to where you are now. Congratulations. I mean, you're doing a great job and obviously adding a lot to our economy.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. But my question is, of course, fish farm tenures are in the news right now, and our Minister of Agriculture has pointed out some concerns. And I guess all of that leads me to a question of, is there any more discussion regarding fish farms on the land now versus continuing to keep it in the water? It seems to me, from a layperson's point of view, that that would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, so and thank you for your questions and your comments. And the issues in the Broughton Archipelago are very real. There are 18 farming tenures that have been there for 25 to 30 years that are up for renewal. These tenures come up for renewal on a regular basis, and some First Nations in that area are not in support of the industry and haven't been in support of the industry. And so our members continue to reach out to try and work to help with their concerns, as they have in every other farming region. And many of the agreements they have today started with eviction notices that led to working arrangements and led to employment in other areas, other things. And we're looking to have that type of arrangement there and have as much involvement from the First Nations as they want in the industry. So far, we're not able to get another party around a table, and so we'll continue to work on that. With respect to land-based aquaculture, as I mentioned, we've got 20 of these facilities, and our members grow all of their fish for the first part of their life in these farms and then moved them into the ocean. If it made biological and business sense to not invest in the well boat and the farm site and the people that work on the farm site, they would leave them in those facilities, harvest them, and sell them. But to date, it doesn't make biological or business sense to do that. What is happening is companies are investing significantly in new facilities, like the two in Sayward. This is allowing them to leave the fish in those facilities a bit longer. So instead of taking them at 100 grams, maybe it's 200 or 300, or in Norway up to 500 grams, and then they're spending less time in the ocean environment, where they're open to less risks, and they're finding that may be a more integrated production model. Then you've got Agri-Marine's technology, which is a floating closed containment, and they have a really great integrated aquaculture system in Lois Lake, where their fish start in a land-based system, then they go to a net pen, and then they finish in the floating closed containment tank, because that's what works well for their environment. And in Norway, where Norway's 15 times larger industry than we are, so they have incredible amounts of money in innovation, and their government is working to drive innovation and funding it significantly. They're seeing near-shore aquaculture and floating closed systems. They're using net pens, and now they're also looking at offshore systems on farms that look like oil rigs. So the technology is moving very quickly, and so land-based aquaculture is going to be a larger component globally of how we raise fish, salmon, and other species. But our opinion and those of around the world is that it won't replace the traditional net pen system. Those systems continue to get better. It will augment those systems in some areas.
Good. Thank you.
Great, you're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? No, seeing none? Thank you very much, Jerry.
You're welcome.
It's nice to have an update and see how well this organization is doing.
Thank you. Always happy to come and visit with you and share information about our sector, and I'm sure I'll see many of you at the Seafood Festival, if not before. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
You've left the board.
Yep, we've left a few reports there for those of you, and I believe some were sent as well. So if you need more, then certainly reach out to our office and we'll send them through. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the minutes of meetings, the regular council meeting minutes for approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Public hearing meeting minutes.
Move. Second.
All those in favor? Okay, motion carried. And the committee of the whole meeting minutes.
Move receipt. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, unfinished business, the management report.
Move receipt. Second.
All those in favor? Questions, discussion?
Just a quick question with regard to organics. And I'm wondering, we've talked about increasing the collection of our organics, and I'm wondering if there's a time when this actually might take place.
That would be an issue that we would look at for next year. Right now, we are very soon going into the revamped recycling program. So we'll get over that hurdle with the community and the new things that will be recycled and the old that can't. And then we're going to move on probably along the same timeline that the regional district is looking at the issue of a regional organics facility as well. So we'll try and bring those items somewhat in concert.
Perfect.
So more on that next year.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to the rezoning application, RZ 17-7. And
Move
this
to agree.
is-
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried.
And move adoption.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.
I do have a question regarding this now that we've passed that. Because of the process that the folks had to go through, that they had to pay $1,000 for the restricted covenant. And from what it sounded like at the last meeting, and perhaps Marvin could elaborate more, maybe this is something that they just got caught up in with the process. Is there a way that, through you to the planner, that we could perhaps reimburse the folks for that $1,000? Just a discussion I'd like to see
Yeah.
at this point.
We have adopted, correct? There was a...
Yeah.
Okay. We are in receipt of correspondence from the applicants requesting a refund.
Okay.
And because this was not, this would have been new information after a public hearing.
Right.
We couldn't put it on this agenda, but it will come forward to council in the next agenda.
Okay.
Consideration.
So you don't need a motion to...
No.
Okay, good.
It'll be considered then.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You have a question?
Well, I'm sure it'll come up when that comes up. It's just, I think their complaint was that they got the bill and everybody else got the benefit. And they did too, but they had to pay for everybody, is that? Okay, so, but there was $1,200 for the staff time put into this.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Anything further? No? All right. So, moving to the implementation of Recycle BC program in the town of Comox.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. So any discussion?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is great. First of all, that we aren't paying the cost, the towns are paying the cost, and I'm sure it's very important that we do get the message out about what products people can put in their recycling, because there's penalties payable, and they can be quite significant, can't they, Richard?
Yes, they can. Yeah,
Yes.
to $5,000 a load or an occurrence. So it's fairly significant.
And so, you know, it's great that we can actually recycle more items too. And I'm sure people were recycling them anyway, so I guess they just got thrown out at that point. And I think it's good that we are employing someone to put the message out. And hopefully we're going to use all avenues to put that message out. Is there going to be something delivered to each house? You've got a checklist of...
Yes, there will be something delivered to each house. I think I've viewed the video that will also go onto the website and Facebook and Twitter, and they'll use those mechanisms as well. So we're going to do it on all fronts, as well as some follow-up information as well.
So will it be, I guess you don't know yet, but we have a communication strategy going with this. Is it going to be reasonably simple to figure out? Because that list that you got, that's chaos. I mean, you give that to people. Nobody's going to know what's going on.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So
It's
gotta be
reasonably-
really,
it's
really
reasonably
easy to
simple.
follow.
Keep it simple.
Because I can see this being, at first, causing quite a bit of angst with some people. So,
Yeah.
Are we anticipating any kind of leeway for the first year that we're on the program? I know other communities have had some issues with contamination, but they haven't been fined, as we were concerned about.
I'm not sure if a year would be considered appropriate leeway, but I think that in the startup end of things, you will see some leeway. They do expect us to run a fairly robust public awareness and education campaign, as well as ongoing awareness and education. And we know that the city of Courtenay also will be undertaking some, so we'll share with them because it'll be the same program. So the ability to use kind of a broader net to spread the word and get people back for Courtenay residents, getting back to what can and can't be recycled, and for Comox residents to start them down that path as well.
And is there any, I don't know if they're connected or not, but the business on Anderton, where they are taking some of the items now?
Correct.
Is that connected to Recycle BC?
Yes, it is.
And so people aren't aware of that generally, so I don't know if we can boost some awareness.
That is in the literature I've seen. There is an awareness piece advising people that is one of the depots that they can take material to, as well as the one in Courtenay. And the amount of material that you can take to these depots is significant. And a lot of things that I thought still were landfill bound can now be recycled. So it'll make you think twice before you put it into the waste stream rather than considering recycling.
That's right. Yeah. Great. Okay. Oh,
And including toxic materials too.
Toxic materials, paints, old appliances, the list is quite large.
electronic equipment.
Electronic equipment.
We take a lot of stuff down to the Courtenay one, and you just take it in there,
Yeah.
take it on your hands for nothing. It's good that way.
And
And we have some heavy stuff too, so.
the Comox one takes the electronics too, does it? Have we taken to Comox?
I'm not certain about that, but I believe that they are supposed to be a full-service depot. They all are supposed to accept all the materials.
And just getting back to the recycling side, people will have to use the open boxes. I've noticed when I'm out dog walking that people are slipping a bit into the blue bags again. So I guess that's a message we need to get out.
Yes.
They need to be able to see what's in the box.
Correct,
And
yes.
pick it up.
Yeah. And they may be recipients of the OOPS stickers initially, advising them that.
If there is a bag.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I think the process is initially they'll just leave the sticker saying, look, you can't use the blue bag or whatever it is they've done incorrectly, and they document those homes, and so they're looking for corrective behavior, and at some point, if they don't, then they don't pick up the recycling until. So it's relatively strict approach.
Councilor McKinney.
So as you've alluded to, the education piece is so important here for many of us, and there'll be some bumps along the road, but the incentive is the public really, I'm sure that will be highlighted in the information that goes out. And I echo what was brought up by some of the other councillors, that education piece is so important here, with good intentions, and in the long run, but after some patience and getting used to it, I'm sure it'll be a very good system.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Okay, so moving on to that council authorized entering into a master service agreement with Recycle BC for a one-year term, as included in the November 1st, 2017 regular council meeting agenda.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so moving on to correspondence. We have correspondence from Wendy Booth, thanking Councillor Price for her service as an executive.
Move to seat.
Excellent news.
It's a lot of time you put in, Barbara.
Yeah.
And how long were you serving, Barbara?
3 years.
we vote on receipt?
We're just about to.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Good. And correspondence from Marcy Turner from the Comox Archives and Museum, thanking for the donation of the display case and also the picture of Dusty Destaire.
Move receipt. Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried.
And just before we move off that, whenever staff are commended, could we send this letter on to the Public Works and specifically to Doug? Because always nice.
Absolutely.
That's just a
And a question? I noticed in Marcy's letter that a photo of Dusty was donated by the town. Does that mean that we are now without that photo? Am I misinterpreting that? Because I am misinterpreting or not?
Well, it was the photo that was hanging here
Yes.
in council chambers, yes.
Are we not planning to hang it any longer?
It's going to be displayed at Comox Archives and Museum.
But not here.
Council wishes, we can get a copy back.
Well, the seniors are very pleased because, of course, they wanted to have a picture of Dusty in the Stair Center.
Oh, okay.
Just wondering if we would have, since this was his.
Mhm.
Yes.
That is a nice idea because this actually was Dusty's den. So, and I think the museum is doing an enlarged copy for Destaire Centre, so you can actually read clearly.
Oh, the inscription.
history. Yeah. So, is that something that we would like to? I would say we could just have a copy here.
Sure.
Okay? Good. Okay, no late items or delegations, reports from members of council. Hello, Councillor Arnott.
I have nothing to report
Okay.
that I can remember.
Remember what's
I
Halloween?
keep saying every time, I keep saying I'm going to write it down. and then
Yeah,
I forget
yeah.
to write it
Yeah,
down.
well, you never get to go first, so you usually.
Coming
Yeah,
soon.
that's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I scared you this time. All right, Councillor Graham.
Oh, well, I attended the sewer meeting on last Tuesday, and that was a bit of a raucous affair. Did you want to report out on that, or how would you like to go about this? Go ahead, and then I'll
okay.
fill in where we live, being the chair. Go ahead.
Well, do you want me to read?
That's all I did, so.
Oh, that's all you did? Okay, well, we'll go to Councillor Price now.
I'll fill in if there's anything I feel we should go with. How's that?
So I did attend the sewage commission, and we did a unanimous decision of the commission was to put the number 2 pump station on hold with the increasing costs of the pump station. Technically and fitting into that site, it's about 80% increase over what was anticipated, which made the other options, when they're costing over the long term, look a lot more a better way to be proceeding. So we are doing a study of alternative routes that may or may not include the pump station, but doing the whole project, which would include replacing all the trunk lines and potentially going on land with those. The red flags, there was a series of red flags that were in place, and all through the number 2 pump station project, it has been said that these red flags must all be removed before that project becomes viable. They included the hydrology of the area, and there has been shown to be some risk associated, and it is an area with Proto Beach with wells. The good thing was the trunk lines have been shown to be in a better state than we had at first assumed them to be, so that has bought a little bit of time. The work, the major thrust for getting the number 2 pump station in is protection of the beach and the Willamar Bluffs, where the trunk line was exposed. I think it was 2005. It was seen that parts of the beach had been removed and it was open to wind and wave action, which is extreme in a storm event. But a lot of work has been done since then. Through this, we've done, there's been a lot of exploratory work and how to maintain that trunk line with the gabion baskets so that they are protected, and there's a monitoring process in place. And there is also now an emergency response program, not just for that section, but for the whole of the trunk line. So a lot of work has been done, and it has taken a considerable length of time, which is, unfortunate. But the Commission wanted to make sure that they made the best decision, and that was financially the best investment of taxpayers' dollars. So it's going to be a year process looking at options, and there will be a report back in early 2019 and as to what will be the course of action then. Till we have to have an improved course of action, the number 2 pump station is still on the table, but all work that needed to be done has been done, and basically the pause button has been hit.
And I think it's important to remember, too, that we still have a problem on the beach, although we've bought some time. Courtney Pump Station is still at 100% capacity when we have those high storm events. When we put the Greenwood and Hudson trunk lines in, it's only still going to alleviate about 5% of the flow. So the issue still remains. It's not gone anywhere. We bought a little bit of time, but there's still an urgency factor to get this moving as quickly as we can. And where it goes from here is a good question, but I think that we need to really understand that we have to be vigilant. We can't, part of the deal was, well, we could always just increase the pump sizes in the Courtney Pump Station to get that flow going. But in reading the reports about the pressure in the line, I don't think that that's a very viable option, because the line won't take the pressure. So, in my opinion, we're still managing by crisis on this, and it needs to be dealt with. And the report that came out that kind of showed there was some redundancy issues with the Courtney Pump Station number 2, those are real problems, although the initial reports that we got all said that lot was plenty big enough. So I don't know what changed, but suddenly that was a change that came as a bit of a surprise to us. So, there's some real issues no matter where we go. My concern with this is that when this comes back, it could well fall into a different location, possibly in Comox, possibly in Courtney. The time that it takes to get a piece of property, rezone it, go through the public process, then, as we've seen, 4 years worth of engineering, that's not a fast process. And we still have issues with this. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get this done and get it in a timely manner before there's a problem, but I still have big concerns with the environment and what could happen here. So I think that's important for everybody at the table to know and to think about as we go forward here, because this is not over. It's just different. So I'll leave it at that.
I think Councilor
so-
Arnott had a question.
And just, I guess, following up with what Ken's saying there, so 4 years ago this process started, the regional district and their engineers had identified that site. So there was a lot of investigation, a lot of reports, and so here we are, we're no further ahead, really. So now we're looking at another report. Now, how much money have we put into these reports and these, and the money for the sites? And I see we're a dog chasing its tail right now, and one group doesn't like this, one group doesn't like that. A decision has to be made, and crisis management is great, but all it takes is that line to be open, and not that we have any fish farms down south of here, but we have a lot of other aquaculture and shellfish and so on that would be destroyed. And we saw the graphs in 24 hours, what it would wipe out. And I do think there is an urgency. And there's an old saying, I'm not going to say that saying right now, but I do think we need to get off the pot, and we need to move forward on this thing. And and we're going to take pressure on it. But
Well, the main issue, to answer some of that, is that when we got the more updated report from a different engineering firm, the first one was a D-class report. This is a B-class, so it's much more in-depth. But what it shows is that if the new pump station were to shut down, it would shut down all the pump stations. Currently what happens is if Comox were to shut down for some reason, Courtney keeps pumping. If Courtney shuts down, Comox keeps pumping. If you add that new one, if that shuts down, they all shut down. So that's a problem that we didn't foresee coming. So that's kind of the crux of where this is coming from. So
yeah, my concern just the taxpayer money that we put into this, and we're no further ahead. You know,
And I
4
think
years
it
ago.
was
We're
a
behind.
lot
we're
more
behind.
complex, the studies, as Councillor Grant said, at a higher level of studies identified much more complexities that hadn't come out before, such as...
But isn't that why we employ engineers? You know, to tell us these things, because we don't know that. But somebody's gone to school for a long time to figure that stuff out, and surely we should have had that 4 years ago.
Well,
Even 2 years ago.
Yeah, one of the issues that we talked about at the Sewer Commission and Water as well is to put to change the structure of the board and to turn it into more of a utilities commission and take the politicians off the board for the exact reason you just said,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
People either don't read these reports or read them and don't understand them. And I mean, you can look at that from watching some of the people sitting around the table saying, well, let's go down south and take it. Well, there's nowhere to go. And it's like, those are just, but clearly they're not reading the reports if that's
Right.
what you're getting. And so I think it would be way better to have people that actually read and understand these reports rather than having some of the political gamesmanship and laymen that sit at those tables making those decisions. So that's something we brought up and hopefully we'll move towards.
Good.
So, and Councillor Price, do you have anything more
I-
to
I-
report?
Stay over there.
Or did you have a question?
Yes. That's a question.
Just a quick one is that the one-year process looking at options, just to be clear for the public, that's being done by CBRD staff then?
No.
Or is it being contracted over?
Contracted out, yeah.
Has
Very
that-
high-level engineering.
And are those costs going to be transparent?
Well, all contracts are public. We will be having a report coming to our next sewer commission meeting. This was a decision that very recently that came up, that we were taking this different approach, and so how that unfolds will be at our next meeting. There is a public meeting at the golf course, November 9th.
Yeah.
And it's in the afternoon, early evening, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
November 9th at Comox Golf Club?
Yeah, yeah. So that would be, so it would be all the background of, with a presentation on the reports and the information that is coming. It is, very complex and becoming more complex, and the tie-in too of the trunk line to the pump station, I think, had complexities that weren't foreseen, because trunk line cannot be turned off. It just keeps on pumping. So anyway, this is it was a
Well, and to maybe help explain a little bit about how we got here was that an engineer's report was done, and it showed that a pump station had to go within a certain grid, which the lot that was purchased prior to us taking over was based on that report. it also showed that that lot size was plenty large enough for what we were trying to do here. We coupled that with the sewer master plan, which shows 5 options, every one of which showing a pump station within that grid, again, fitting with that lot. And so that's what the previous board based the decision to buy that lot on. And so they based it on engineering. It wasn't knee-jerk reactions. It wasn't anything. It was based on solid engineering and good principles that they went and did that. I think you need to remember too that we put an advisory group together to go and look and check and make sure that there wasn't another better location, which we actually tried another location, which ended up not working because of engineering issues. And that's how we got back to where we were. So wherever this goes, it will be controversial. I don't think there's any way around that piece of it. But it was quoted in the newspaper that this was a knee-jerk reaction. Well, it was anything but a knee-jerk reaction. It was based on really solid, proper, engineered studies that we all read and looked at. So, how we got here and how the money got spent, we were following the advice of the staff and the engineers that we were being given that by. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at. So, yeah. So, and then lo and behold, the new report comes out and pretty much contradicts everything that was in those. So now it's which engineer was. So, who knows? Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, the open house for the meeting is from 5 to 7 on the night. Okay, so back to your report.
Yes, that's right. and we all attended the farewell to St. Joe's.
Oh, that's
The closing. That was
You can open
to
that.
have the tour. And, yeah, that was a very touching and a wonderful event. I also went to the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, and including background information, which was put out by the Comox Valley Amnesty International. I attended an ADICC executive meeting and also an Integrated Regional Transportation Select Committee meeting. There will be presentations in the new year coming out to the council and the Comox Band and the regional district, and it is definitely on track to be a multi-use path. It's conceptual at the moment. We're waiting for the Ministry of Transportation is getting the road right-of-way surveyed out, because it's not clear actually where the road, the area that we have to work in. But conceptually, it's looking at that there will be the bike lane along by the road for the commuter biking, and then with a multi-use path on the seaward side of the Dyke Road. So more information to come in the new year. And I also met with Diane Hawkins of the Comox Valley Chamber, the BC Chamber's resolution on short stay accommodation. They want to see an more even playing field, and also taking short stay accommodation out of the long-term rental market. And for some reason I'm their go-to person. I'm not sure how I got that role.
Lucky you.
So, and I think some of the things that we've been doing too will encourage or discourage the short-term accommodation and make that stop the loss of long-term accommodation. Anyway, a work in progress. I was learning alongside Diane. I had to tell her I'm not an expert. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKinnon.
Yes, just a couple of things here. I'll go backwards, starting with last night. I attended the BIA Halloween local business event, Halloween event for kids on Comox Avenue and at the mall. well done to all there, and certainly businesses are very supportive of that. Great to see. I too attended the Amnesty International at Comox First Nations, and I'll just add to that UN Declaration of Rights, there's a private members bill in Parliament that has been introduced by a member, and it suggests that municipalities should be aware of the consequences of this bill, so it may be some reading that we all want to keep abreast of. Went to the closing of St. Joe's, very emotional, well done program. A workshop, attended a workshop on smaller modular homes, workshop put on by sponsored by Comox Valley Social Planning, and maybe a wave of the future with some of our homes. And I think that's it. That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McKinney. Councillor Markram. Thank you. Mine is short. This is a good thing. Good news is that I returned on Thursday afternoon from attending the Vancouver Island Economic Summit. This is the third summit that I've attended, and it was a very interesting one, as they all are. I will only say that the opening keynote speaker topic was earning trust in an untrusting world. And I thought that rather set the tone for all that followed. But it's interesting too, if I had to summarize each of the three summits that I've attended, there's a message that is repeated each time, and that is, they discussed over and over again relationship building, collaboration, and communication. And so as a result of that tie-in to mistrusting, it worked out to be a very positive summit, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have much to share if anyone's interested. Also, I attended the ceremonial farewell at St. Joseph's, and I agree it was a very touching service, and I'm glad that I attended. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I attended the St. Joseph's ceremony as well, and the Sewage Commission. And the only other thing I have to add to the previous discussion regarding the Sewage Commission is that this is now going to fall into an election cycle. So we won't know who the members of the new commission will be that will be dealing with this, and it troubles me that we weren't able to find a solution within our term, because we know there will be some time spent with a new commission trying to get people to understand the complexities, and therefore that is one of the reasons that a utility commission really makes good sense for some of these large capital projects. And the only other thing I did was I did work a shift at the Rotary Book Sale on Saturday, and the pickleball advertising and the monies that they're raising for that was quite prominent, so that was good to see. Mm-hmm. Did you want to add anything?
Well, I did a shift at that too, and I never even equated it to council, but I guess it does, because we're going to get onto the pickleball thing. But they had a record this year, and $38,000
Whoa!
which is up from the previous record was about 32. So I said, great, that'll be more for the pickleball. We'll see.
Right. The pickleballers have to put pieces down. Okay, any questions? Public questions? Okay. So we'll move to adjournment. All those in favor? Adjourned.
That's all we do now.